This house here may be empty.
I catch a lot of backlash that law enforcement should not be on the lead when it comes to addiction. There's many who say you have a gun, you're trying to punish people. Law enforcement should not be the ones that are taking the lead on this issue. And I will frankly say I agree with you, but who else is stepping up to do it? I believe we, the criminal justice system, are some of the biggest enablers of addiction. When we look at the history of how we dealt with addiction in the United States, we have more people in jail, more people using drugs, and more people dying of drugs than ever in the history of our country. That should be a big signal that what we're doing is not working. We somehow believe that we can punish addiction out of somebody, but the reality is, if you have an understanding of what addiction is, substance use disorder, you understand it's a chronic mental medical health condition.
Gotta be real careful. I wouldn't go any further. What draws people here? You know, that's like the struggle we have. Why are people drawn to this?
If someone is addicted, they should be receiving mental medical health treatment. We can't just put somebody in jail with substance use disorder. So what we're realizing is that part won't work, but how can we keep people alive? That group started in 2014 with about a dozen people. It is now called the Hamilton County Addiction Response Coalition. We have over 150 agencies that are involved in it and over 400 people. We have a robust community infrastructure that allows people to connect to treatment. And what we're able to do in law enforcement, and this was one of the goals, is shift the addiction response off of law enforcement and put it more towards a community response. It really, truly is a community that came together. And because of that, we've been able to stabilize our addiction crisis in the area. It's still high, but we're not seeing huge increases and not seeing huge decreases. We've been able to stabilize. In my department, what we're doing is, instead of when someone overdoses, saving their life and taking them to jail, we're connecting them directly to treatment.
This property here is just cleaned. It actually probably looks pretty good, but I'd like to see if there's anybody in there. Somebody walking up there? Okay. Come out and talk to me. You're not in trouble.
A lot of times I get asked, are people taking advantage of treatment opportunities? And it's really a complex answer to that. Because in order to answer that, you have to understand the complexity of addiction.
Have you been to Shelter House before? Yeah? It's a pretty good program down there. They get 3 square meals a day.
It's almost as if that familiarity of despair is what drives somebody. It's more powerful than the hope of getting recovery.
I would like to get you there as soon as possible. This isn't the best for you guys.
What we're asking people to do, and I don't think a lot of people who don't have an addiction understand this, you're asking someone to go through withdrawals, a very physical and painful process. Then you're asking them to mentally tough it out, but then on top of it, a lot of times what we don't deal with is that underlying trauma, that family trauma. Were they abandoned? Were they abused? Was there sexual abuse? What is the underlying issue? And I think a lot of times those of us without addiction, we look at it and go, why aren't you getting treatment? Or even if they succeed in relapse, we judge them and criticize them. And I think the reason why we do that is because we don't understand the power of addiction. So when people ask me, are there many people getting into treatment? There's many trying, but it's a very difficult process. And I don't think we as a society, as a country, have done enough to support people into treatment and recovery.
I'd like to get somebody in contact with them as soon as possible. If we can get them in right now, we can get him talking to someplace that can get him placed and get him into services that can speak his language. We want to do that right now. That's where we've seen success.
From the time I wanted to be a police officer, and I think many police officers are the same way, is I wanted to save lives and make a difference. And for me, that is always the underlying foundation in anything I do, is can I save their life, or can I make their life better, or the family's life better? And I've found almost after 30 years of law enforcement that when I take that approach, or when law enforcement takes that approach, we end up serving our community better. And really, that's what a public safety official is. When I first got into becoming a police officer, I thought I could save the world on my own. And what I'm finding is that it really takes the world to save itself. And that's when you bring the community together, that's what you find.